Hello! Today I'm going to introduce a new topic, which is academic spoken English. I divided my presentation into three parts. First, I am going to define what using English for academic purposes is and its connection to your studies. Second, I'll define spoken English and the main characteristics of academic spoken English, two things that are quite similar but, again, quite different too. Third, I'll briefly mention the different types of public speaking, something that is closely connected to the academic field. So let's start with our first topic. Now I will ask you to take your things next to you because you're going to write down all the things that I will produce in this presentation. We're going to expand some of the concepts and things that we have already discussed or mentioned in the previous class. So, English for academic purposes, EAP, pay attention to the acronyms because they are a lot, refers to the language and associated practices that people need in order to undertake, study or work in English medium higher education. So, why do we use English for academic purposes? Well, it is related to our needs, to the needs of the student, to the needs of the learner, and how this learner can move through the academic world. When it says that it refers to the language and associated practices, it means that these two things are very important in the development, in the teaching and learning of the English for academic purposes. That is, for example, language, it is related to the structures, not only grammatical, but in the sense of the writings and the formality of the language itself. So, academic English, it's in general, has its characteristics, accurate and formal, so language is special. The associated practices that we see here are connected to the use of this academic English. I mean, seminars, public speeches like persuasive speeches, political speeches, impromptu seminars, presentations, lectures, well, all those things that are related to use the academic English for some kind of specific purposes, and this is the connection. So let's see the characteristic. So English for academic purposes is considered to be a branch of English language teaching, ELT, okay? It is a type of English for specific purposes, ESP, okay? Why it is a type? Well, because in ESP, the teaching content is closely connected to the language practices and study needs of the learners. Yes? It is also considered to be ESP, English for specific purposes. It is also to be considered in that way if we take into account Robinson's works. EAP is similar to ESP. Why? Because ESP is goal-directed. Yes? The learners need or will need to use English in their professional or academic lives. It's the most important thing. In English for academic purposes, learners are usually in a higher level of education, and they need to learn English in order to succeed in their academic careers. Second, ESP courses must be based on the analysis of needs. The ESP courses are designed to take into account the needs of the student. So, in EAP, learners' aims at what they are working on, studying or planning to study are the most important thing. Accuracy, in this sense, it is related to the importance of being accurate both in speaking and writing. So, when using English for academic purposes, it is important to be accurate in speaking and in writing. It is, however, very difficult to produce language which is intelligent. That is how you have to develop your English academic speeches. It should be intelligent, appropriate, and accurate. In speaking, when you are speaking, you therefore need to prepare well. Do not prepare only your ideas, prepare your language as well. So when you have written out your talk, you will need to carefully check it for accuracy. Another possibility is to record your presentation and watch it later. While you are watching it, look out for mistakes. A useful way to do this is to transcribe sections of your talk, to copy, not transcribe as the sense of phonetic transcriptions, right? To copy all your talk, and it's easy to notice mistakes when they are written down. In the writing selection, when you are writing, you need to rewrite and edit your work carefully. First, composition, then transcription. Composition to connect ideas, and transcription to check spelling, punctuation, accuracy, tenses, etc. So the composition is the way in which the speech is built up. So how did you connect your ideas when you created your speech? Okay, how is your introduction developed? Where did you set the examples? How is the transition of different paragraphs? And then you check in the transcription, that is to say in the normal spelling format, you check everything. Because then you go for the transcription, the phonetic one, and you can practice the pronunciation better. So let's go on with our second item in the presentation, which is a definition of spoken English. Features of academic spoken English, but first we need to focus on what is speaking. Okay, so let's analyze this joke. So what do you think the problem is here? Why do you think they can't communicate? Well, if you say that because they are from two different species, I would like a better answer. So, as speaking has to do with communication, to communicate effectively, it is important to share the same code. In this way, these two, a dog and a cat here, they cannot communicate because they don't share the same code. They can share the same channel, but to communicate effectively, it is important to share the same code, channel, and the speaker's intention must be clear. So we share the same code, okay? But what if I start talking in French, speaking in French, okay? Or using dirty words, I say mean things to you, or even if you talk to me using dirty words. Are we still communicating, or are we sharing the same channel? I don't think so. So we need to take many things into account. Time, process, space, intention. Cook gives a clear definition of what speaking a language is. Yes? He says, spoken language happens in time and must therefore be produced and processed online. There is no going back and changing or restructuring our words as there is in writing. There is often no time to pause and think, and while we are talking or listening, we cannot stand back and view the discourse in a spatial or diagrammatic terms. You cannot see what you are talking in the space, as in a piece of paper, or in time, okay? So, why online all the time? So, taking this into account and having this as a target in your speech, we can say that communication, the key is, okay? Mr. Yoda has it clear. So, let's narrow the idea and concentrate on spoken English, yes, and its characteristic. It is different from written English, so let's see what Halliday said about spoken English. Yes. Spoken English has a variation in speed, that is to say that we don't communicate the same in the same speed all the time. Loudness or quietness, remember in first year we have seen the properties of the prominent words and syllables. We said that a stressed syllable will go in a louder way, but when we select our tone, depending on what we are saying and how we are communicated, we use loudness or quietness. For example, for explaining, I can go slow, yes? And I can go in a higher pitch if I need to, I don't know, mark a word. So, spoken English has a variation in speed. That is the difference between with the written English. Loudness or quietness, gestures or body language that you can see, intonation, which is something that we're going to see later on with all its intentions and reasons, stress, rhythm, the music of our language, English language, pitch range, pausing and phrasing. So those things are to be taken into account. We need to pay attention to these because these are the main differences between the English, the written English, okay? When we have to write an important paper, we focus not only in structure of vocabulary, we pay attention to spelling, punctuation, the level, coherence, but when we speak, we have to remember that there is variation in speed, loudness or quietness. We have to take that into account. Gestures and body language. You cannot speak or give a class with your eyes closed, for example, or like frozen. No, you can't. You use intonation, you use stress, you have a rhythm. Well, so spoken language is, in this sense, grammatical less complex. Yes, that is to say, it is grammatically less complex than written because it has less subordinate clauses, prepositional phrases, all the complexity of the written language. You don't have it in the spoken language. Spoken texts are longer, yes, because there is more repetition. This doesn't mean that the speaker is redundant, but when you need to support an idea, you use different words, synonyms, or different things. You're going to see that when you start working with your speeches. You're going to see different things to get to your point, to get what you want to say, okay? It is also less complex. It has shorter, less complex words and phrases, yes, or words. It is less complex because there is an idea of avoiding being dense, okay, being heavy in the speech. I mean, when you are speaking, you use more verb-based phrases, more limited vocabulary, and it is lexically less dense. Yes, you don't start by complex structures. Well,